Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
I was sitting at my desk Wednesday morning going through some of the paperwork from Tuesday's shift. My name is Doug Murphy. I am the day shift captain of Precinct 7 with the local police department. Most of the time I'm in the office, but occasionally I get out when we have a sticky or unusual situation. I'm 40 years old and quite frankly in pretty damn good shape. I was looking at some arrest reports when I got a call from my good friend and neighbor, Barry Carson. He and his wife, Beth, are best friends with me and my wife. In fact, Barry, Beth, and all went to high school together. They have known each other a long time, and Beth have been best friends since elementary school. Barry told me he needed to talk to me about something important. It involved my wife, and I made arrangements to meet him for lunch. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out what this was all about. He said he would explain over lunch. I met in my sophomore year in college. We sat next to each other in psychology class, and was not considered very attractive when I met her. In fact, she was quite a bit overweight. I thought she was very pretty, and knew that there was a very beautiful woman inside. I could tell she had some self-esteem issues. She had been like this all through high school. She told me how boys made fun of her and called her names. Some of the boys were quite cruel to her. I could see the hurt on her face when she talked about it. Yes, I felt sorry for her, but I also found that I liked being with her. She was actually a lot of fun to be around. We got to know each other pretty well. I decided to ask her out. I needed a date for my fraternity prom, so I asked in. She thought it was a joke at first. You trying to win the pig pot, or what? She said. At first it hurt my feelings when she said that. I explained to her what I saw in her. When she realized I was serious, she apologized and agreed to go with me. She really fixed herself up that night, and I thought she was gorgeous. We had a great time, although I did have to deck a guy at the bar. I'm glad and wasn't at the bar with me. He made some crack about me winning the pig pot. No one made another crack the rest of the night. In fact, once some of my friends got to talking to her, they told me they really thought she was cool. I guess we were an odd couple. I was pretty buff and worked out all the time. I was majoring in criminal justice and was planning on a career in law enforcement. After a few dates, and asked me if she could start working out with me. She wanted to learn to eat right and exercise. She was determined to lose a lot of weight. 6 months later, you would not have recognized her. She was one beautiful lady. 1 year later, she could have been Miss America. In the meantime, we fell deeply in love. We got married right after we graduated. I got a job with the police department, and she got a job teaching elementary school. We have been married for 18 years, and is one of those women who get better looking with age. She also just turned 40 and probably could pass for her 20s. I am a lucky guy. She is one sexy babe that knows how to please me in bed. I swear she could suck a billiards ball through a pipe. We do have a teenage daughter, Erin, so we have to be careful when making love while she is at home. We have a tendency to get pretty vocal, and the bed does move around. It goes without saying that and is my world, and I love her so much. I met Barry around noon at a place called Hamburger Dawn. We ordered our meal, then Barry told me about a conversation he overheard between Beth and last night. Doug, do you remember me telling you on occasion about this guy in my high school class named Freddie Big Dong Tucker? He said, yeah, everyone called him Big Dong because of his big dick. I said, not just a big dick, an enormous dick. I bet he was at least 12 inches and pretty thick too. It was like something out of a movie. He said, yeah, so what's this have to do with what you want to tell me? I said, Big Dong never lacked for attention from the girls in our school. His reputation and nickname were well known. He had sex with a lot of them, including Beth. Of course, we weren't dating or anything when she did, but she did confess to me that she had been with him once. He said, did she say how it was? I said, no, and I didn't really ask or want to know. There was no way I would ever measure up to him, so I dropped it, and so did she. He said, well, I have heard and mentioned him some, but she was never with him. I said, no, she wasn't, Doug. I don't mean this to be ugly, but he wouldn't have anything to do with her because the way she looked. You know, being fat and all. In fact, Big Dong would make fun of her in front of everybody. I'm sure and felt left out, because every girl in school wanted Big Dong. He said, I knew and had it rough in high school when it came to guys. I don't think she ever had a date, but she never talks about it much. Doug, I overheard and Beth talking last night. As you know, our big reunion is coming up Friday night at the Marriott. They didn't know I could hear them on the back porch. They were talking about the reunion and how they looked forward to it. He said, yes, and is really excited. She didn't make the other one you had, and she can't wait for everyone to see how she has changed. Unfortunately, I probably won't get there until late. I have to cover part of a shift. I said, well, you might want to get there as quick as possible after what I heard. Apparently, and got a call from Big Dong Tucker yesterday. I guess he had heard how hot she was now and has decided to see if he can get her to his room Friday night. I also finally found out what Beth thought of him. He said, What do you mean, Barry? I said. Beth told and about his monster tool and that it was amazing. She only did once with him, but she has never seen another one like it. Sure made me feel good. He said. So what did it say? I asked. She just asked a lot of questions about his dick. Was it really that big? She told Beth that Freddie had called her and wondered if they could sneak away from the party for a little bit. He was sure she was curious about the rumors. They laughed about it, but then Beth sort of whispered to and to think about it, and laughed and said she loved Doug too much. He was all she needed. He said, do you think she was seriously considering it, Barry? I said, I will tell you one thing. Big Dong does have a reputation with the ladies. He is not married, I know that. He apparently has no problem fucking married women from what I hear. He said, what do you think I should do? I said, I'm sure it's nothing, Doug. I just wanted you to be aware that Freddie Big Dong Tucker is in town, and he is gunning for your wife. And Beth are both good loyal wives, and neither would probably never cheat. Just the same, keep an eye on things, and get to there as soon as you can. He said, was that it, Barry? I said, I didn't hear everything, but what I heard seemed a little suspicious. He said, that night after supper I asked, and who all was going to be at their reunion. I think pretty much the entire class is coming. It is going to be so good to see some of them. I'll bet they will sure be surprised to see how I have changed. She said, I'm sure all the guys will be hitting on you. You will definitely be the most beautiful woman there. I said, well, Doug Murphy, are you going to be jealous of your wife flirting with all her old classmates? I gave her a nervous laugh. I hear Freddie Big Dong Tucker is going to be there. She said, who is Freddie Big Dong Tucker? I asked, trying to contain my emotions. He thinks he is God's gift to women. His nickname, Big Dong, comes from the fact that he has this enormous dick, or so I hear. She said, did you ever have the opportunity to, shall I say, sample it? I said nervously, now Doug, you know I was fat and unattractive in high school. Freddie only goes after the good-looking girls. He never lacked for female attention, mainly because girls were curious about how endowed he was. He not only didn't want me, he was always making jokes about me and calling me fat names. She said, as I could see she started to tear up a little. I gave her a hug and said, well, wait until he sees you now. He will be all over you. I hope I don't have to worry about your curiosity about something you couldn't have before. I said. She laughed and said, honey, I love you so much. Why would I want to risk that for a roll in the hay with a guy with huge dick? Yes, I thought, you would be risking a lot if you got caught. Let's hope your curiosity does not get the best of you. I will not tolerate a cheating wife. I didn't answer her question, but replied, and I am real sorry I am going to be late to your party Friday night. You know I will get there as soon as I can. I have to cover for Bill until 9 o'clock because of an important meeting he has to attend. I was not given a choice in the matter. I said, it's okay, baby. I will ride with Beth and Barry, then come home with you. That will give me a chance to flirt with all the guys while you're not there. You take your time. I will be in good hands. She said. She saw the look on my face, then said, I'm only kidding, sweetheart. I believe you think I'm going to jump in bed with one of the guys the first chance I get. I have all the man I could ever want in you, and don't you forget it. I smiled, but wasn't convinced. I smelled something fishy and wasn't sure what to do about it. All I knew was that if Big Dong snuck off to a room during the reunion, there would be hell to pay. Since was still on summer vacation, she did not have to go to work. Thursday after lunch, one of the plainclothes detectives knocked on my office door. He explained that he had finished lunch at this restaurant and was leaving when he saw some guy waiting to be seated. She didn't recognize him, but he recognized her. He tried to listen to their conversation, but all he got was the guy's first name. It was Freddie. He told me he left as they were being taken to a table. That bitch. Is she lying to me? Why would she be meeting Freddie for lunch? Maybe a little pre-party planning, or maybe an afternoon delight as a sample. I was upset all afternoon. At 4 o'clock, I was told I could leave a little early because I was working later tomorrow night, so I went straight home, and was not home when I got there. There was a call from the Marriott at 4, and they told me to tell her that they were able to get her a room for Friday night. When she first called on Wednesday, they were full, but then had a cancellation. She never said anything to me about trying to get a room. She came home an hour later. She had a few bags, and said she had been shopping. I didn't confront her about lunch or the room, and she said nothing. I was pretty quiet the rest of the night. She was preoccupied with reunion plans. She went next door to see Beth, no doubt to figure out how to get in bed with Big Dong. I was already in bed when she walked out of the bathroom, wearing a new dress. What do you think, Doug? I bought this dress today for the reunion. Since you won't be here when I leave tomorrow night, I wanted you to see it on me. She looked incredible. It was a slinky, tight-fitting dress that showed off her great body. I didn't know what to say. Did she do this for me? Or Big Dong? You look fantastic, and your classmates are in for a shock when they see you. As I said earlier, I bet the guys will be all over you. Thanks, honey. A lot of good it will do them. I do want to look good though. It is important to me. I had absolutely no self-esteem in high school. I feel really good about myself now, and I know I have you to thank for it. She walked over, unzipped her dress, and let it fall to the floor. She had nothing on underneath. I did her hard. Oh well, if this was my last time with her, I would go out with a bang. The next evening at work, I was a wreck. I was desperate to get out of there and get to the party. I brought my clothes with me so I could change. I had to get there to see if anything happens. I knew if I didn't get there until after 9 o'clock, that was plenty of time for it and to get together with Big Dong. And Beth and Barry were going to get there at 6:30. I called Barry earlier in the day and asked him to keep an eye on, and I told him to call me if he noticed them sneaking off or anything. He said he would watch her like a hawk. As luck would have it, Bill's meeting finished early, and he was able to relieve me at 8 o'clock. I changed and made it to the Marriott around 8:30 or so. I went to the banquet hall and started looking for her, and Barry never called, so I figured she was somewhere around. I looked, but couldn't find her. I finally spotted Barry laughing it up with a bunch of guys. He was pretty drunk. Barry, have you seen it? I asked. Hey Doug, how the fuck are you? Glad you finally made it. It's a great party. Can I get you a drink, old buddy? He said with his speech slurring a little. No, Barry. Have you seen it? You were supposed to keep an eye on her for me. I said. Oh yeah, I saw her earlier, but not lately. The last time I saw her she was talking to Freddie. Oh, come to think of it, I have not seen either one of them in a while. I'm sure she is around here somewhere, Doug. She's probably with Beth, although I haven't seen Beth in a while either. Don't worry, she's probably in the bathroom with Beth. He went back to his buddies and his drink. I walked around and out an entrance that was a hall where some rooms were located. I overheard two drunk guys talking in the hall. I think old Big Dong is already getting lucky. I saw him take some good-looking girl in that room over there. He must have gotten a room close by so he wouldn't have far to take them. One said, Yep, Big Dong can have any woman he wants with his credentials, if you know what I mean. The other one said. They laughed and walked off. I walked over to the room they pointed at and noticed the door had not been completely shut. It had not locked. I guess in their haste to get in bed, they were a little careless. About that time, Barry walked up behind me. I put my finger to my lips for him to be quiet. I nudged the door a little and peeked in the room. There was a guy laying on the bed with a lady riding the hell out of him. She was taking in every inch of his tool as she went up and down. It looked like a big one, so it had to be Big Dong. The lady looked like Ann. I backed up, looked at Barry, and almost threw up. I told Barry it was Big Dong, and the lady looked like Ann, although I couldn't see her face. What are you going to do, Doug? Barry asked. I'm going in there, and it's not going to be pretty. You stay here. I don't want you to see Ann naked. I said. Okay, buddy, but holler if you need me. He said. Yeah, right, I thought. You might want to be ready to call an ambulance for Big Dong, though. I took a deep breath, backed up, and kicked the door with the bottom of my shoe as hard as I could. It made a pretty loud sound when the doorknob hit the wall. I ran in the room yelling, You cheating whore. She jumped off his dick and grabbed a sheet to cover up. Big Dong stood up on the floor and gave me a puzzled look. He had no idea who I was. He was still hard, and it had to be the biggest pole I have ever seen in my life. It was at least 12 inches and pretty thick. I just stared in amazement. All I could say was, You must be Big Dong Tucker. He just nodded, but didn't say anything. I came back to reality and turned to confront Ann, but it wasn't Ann. It was Beth. I just caught Beth fucking the shit out of Big Dong Tucker. Beth was crying and saying something like, Please don't tell Barry. I never realized just how much Beth and Ann looked alike from behind. In the meantime, all the commotion had caused a crowd to gather at the door. I heard Barry say, Don't go in there. Doug just caught his wife and with Big Dong Tucker. Someone informed Barry he had better go in and look. It was Beth with Big Dong. He turned, walked in, and yelled at Beth. Beth, what the fuck? You were fucking this freak of nature? Barry said. Everyone was in the room was just staring at Big Dong in all his glory. No one could believe it. I noticed that and had just walked in the room. She saw Beth crying on the bed. Beth, what the fuck are? She stopped in mid-sentence when she saw Big Dong. It's funny, he never tried to cover up. He just stood there smiling while everyone stared at his dick, which was still sticking straight out. And just stared, then said, Oh my gosh, that's the ugliest thing I have ever seen. Why would any woman want something that freakish inside her? It's got to hurt like hell. She then turned her attention back to Beth. Beth, were you really willing to risk everything for that? She pointed to Freddie's dick, and then turned her attention to me. Doug, what are you doing in here? I heard you broke the door down. Did you think it was me in here? Yes, honey, I'm sorry to say I did. I thought you were upset that he didn't want you in high school, so you were ready to jump at the chance to try out his Big Dong. And smiled at me and said, Baby, we need to talk. Come with me. I've seen all that monster dick I can stand. She told me she had rented a room as a surprise for me. She wasn't going to tell me until I got here. We would party, then go to our room and fuck the night away. We wouldn't have to worry about driving home. She even made arrangements for Aaron to stay with a friend. We got to our room and sat on the bed. Okay, my confused but awesome husband, spill your guts. She said. It started Wednesday when Barry called me to have lunch with him. He told me he overheard you talking to Beth about Freddie. You told Beth he called you wanting to hook up at the reunion. Barry said he couldn't hear everything, but it sounded like you were interested. I said, and took my hand and said, Beth and I were just kidding around. At least I was. I guess Beth wasn't. I will admit he did call me, and he made it clear he wanted to hook up in his hotel room at the party. I made it pretty clear to him that I was a very happily married woman, and frankly, I didn't like him. I reminded him how he treated me in high school. She said, weren't you curious about all the rumors about how hung he was? I asked, who gives a shit about that? It's not the size of a dick on a man, it's man on the dick. You are my man, and as far as I'm concerned, you have the biggest and best dick any woman could ever want. She said. We both thought about what she said and then laughed. I love this woman so much. One of my plainclothes detectives came in Thursday afternoon and said he saw you and Freddie waiting for a table at a restaurant. I said, honey, I was there to meet some of my classmate girlfriends. I didn't know Freddie was invited. We were the first two to show up, so naturally I went with him to the table. If the detective would have stayed, he would have seen 4 other ladies at the table, and I made sure I didn't sit by Freddie. Come to think of it, Beth did. Who invited him? I asked. I bet it was Beth. It makes sense. I think she was after him. I wonder what she was doing with her hands under the table. I got off a little earlier tonight, so when I got here I couldn't find you. Barry told me he had not seen you or Freddie for a while. I heard these 2 guys say they saw Freddie take a really hot babe to his room. I thought it was you. Honey, I had gone with Sarah Jenkins to her room to get some old yearbooks. We stayed there a little while looking through them. I didn't want to see myself, but it was fun to see how good some people looked then, and now not so good. She said, I got a call that the Marriott had your room. I thought you rented it to be with Freddie. You never told me about it. I know now why you did it. I'm sorry, baby. I jumped to a lot of conclusions when I should have just trusted you. It's just that I love you so much, and the thought of you fucking Big Dong Tucker made me feel so inadequate. Please forgive me for doubting you. If anything, I think it shows that you care enough about me to be concerned. I can see where you might have misunderstood the situation. Maybe Barry should have been a little more vigilant, like you. She said, I still should have just asked you. I guess I have seen too many of those Lost Love Chronicles stories about cheating wives and just assumed the worst. I said. She just laughed and gave me a big kiss and hug. Let me tell you something, Doug. Do you remember when we first met? I was fat and unattractive. No, you were overweight, but very attractive. I corrected her. See, that's what I mean. You saw the real me. You saw behind the fat. You asked me out in spite of the fact that no one else saw me as attractive. Then you helped me get where I am today. I owe you everything, baby. I would not be here without you. Freddie didn't do what you did. No one in my class did. You believed in me, and here I am married to the most wonderful man in the world. There is no one, and I mean no one, who could ever replace you. What could I say? I love this woman with all my heart. All I could do was take her in my arms and kiss her deeply. Now that we have that straightened out, I want to tell you that there are 2 reasons I wanted to come tonight. One was to show all these people how I have changed. It's funny, I was fat, but now I look good. Many of these people looked good in high school, and now they are fat. The very ones who made fun of me now are fat and ugly. She said. And what was the other reason in? I asked. The second reason was to show these people what an awesome husband I have. My husband is not only a handsome, good-looking man, he is a highly decorated first responder. I am so proud of you, honey, and now I want to go introduce you to everyone. She said. I offered my arm and said, I would be honored to accompany you to the ball, my dear. I said. Before we go, I have one more surprise for you. She said. She lifted up that slinky little dress of hers, and she had on this little thong panties underneath. She turned around and shook her cute little bum at me. I tried to grab her, but she turned around and shook her finger at me. Not yet there, tadpole torpedo. We have some partying to do first. She said. Tadpole torpedo? I asked. Tadpole torpedo is my new name for my friend down there. I don't need a big dong, because I have tadpole torpedo. She said. Well, Tadpole Torpedo is pretty excited after seeing that little thong on you. I said, don't worry, Tadpole Torpedo will get his turn tonight. Right now, I want to go show off my husband to all my classmates. She said. We went back to the party. We drank, we danced, and we had a great time. And took me around and introduced me to all her classmates. We never did see Barry and Beth again that night. We actually never saw Freddie either. When the music stopped at midnight, we headed back to our room. As we were leaving the banquet room, she whispered to me, you can start your boner now. I want Tadpole Torpedo to be ready, willing, and able as soon as we get to our room. Needless to say, he was all that in the elevator. In fact, if that other couple had not been in the elevator, he would have had his lips around him right there. Now I'm going to leave it to your imagination to figure out what we did in that room. I will tell you it was one of the best nights of lovemaking we ever had. The alcohol, the events of the night, and the love we felt for each other combined to make it one special night. I will tell you that my tadpole torpedo and her glory hole were pretty sore when we had breakfast the next morning. Beth and Barry tried to stay together, but Barry's confidence as a man had been destroyed when he saw Beth with Big Dong. He knew he could never compete with that, and was sure Beth did not want him. They tried counseling to no avail. Beth felt terrible about the whole incident and knew she made a mistake that could not be corrected. It was actually pretty sad for both of them. Barry eventually filed for divorce and moved away. He felt he could never show his face again in our city. Beth still lives next door to us and talks to her, but not as much as she used to. Word got around about Beth and Freddie, so most guys shy away from her. She doesn't date much. How could any man hope to satisfy her knowing she had been with Big Dong? We also never saw or heard anything from Big Dong again, so I really don't know what happened to him. I know he and Beth never saw each other again. As for and me, we're doing great. Her favorite thing now is to crawl in bed with me at night, and on occasion ask, "Can Tadpole Torpedo please come out to play?" Of course, he does. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.